On this week's episode, a malevolent creature terrorizes a home full of children. Weird robotic flowers ask a child for an odd request, and a black cloud brings misfortune to a witness. This week on Strange Pathways. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Strange Pathways. I'm your host, Scott Mort. I'm having a great week being pested by my cat, Alex. She's been pesting me so much that she's given me nightmares about losing the cats. Today, I'm recording just a little bit differently. I'm breaking the session up. I've got a very busy Sunday. I've got a few things to do here around the house. And I am going to be auditioning for a voice acting role here in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. They're doing Spaceballs, the radio play. I am a fan of Mel Brooks comedy, especially Spaceballs, me being a big nerd and what have you. Yeah, I thought I'd go out for the part of Barf. So in just about 2 hours from now, I will be auditioning, and thought I'd get a little bit of recording in, a little bit after, edit it. Fingers crossed, we have the podcast up and round about the same time we usually do. On to today's tales. Our first tale takes us back to July 18th, 1980. Passfield, Hampshire, England. There's this hospital, High Herlands Hospital. Really, this is a home for mentally handicapped children. The nurses have been complaining because for months, something has been flying over the hospital. The object usually appears in the northeast, heads towards the southwest. But on the day in question, the nurses hear the humming sound. They know it's coming. So they all rush outside to see this object. But it doesn't behave the way it usually does. Today, things are going to go a little different. There's this pleasant little orchard across the street from the hospital. The craft hovers over the orchard and begins to descend. It drops to a height of about 30 feet and hovers there. And then, in just a few moments, it vanishes. A few hours later that night, around 12:15, Nurse Helen Monger heard something going on outside. She gets a quick glimpse of a person passing by the window. She grabs a fellow nurse, Diane Edworthy, and calls the police. In the middle of the phone call, she sees a figure in black. At the very least, this figure is 6 foot tall, and it's looking in through the window at them. This figure is completely black and has a gigantic helmet over his head. They can't see the face, but the clothing is all leathery. It's some sort of fabric that glistens. This creature seems, it's either a bulky creature or the suit has it padded out. The nurses see this creature, gasp, and the thing steps back into the darkness and it's gone. 2 or 3 minutes later, the telephone rings. The nurses at the far quarters on the other side of the orchard, which is about half a mile, they tell these nurses there's a black figure looking in through the windows here. 15 minutes later, the police arrive at the hospital. They find no footprints in the soil. Even though outside the windows, the soil was quite soft. I imagine it was probably some sort of flower arrangement or a bush out there. They search the entire area of the orchard with dogs. They find nothing. The dogs pick up no scent. They come to the conclusion the nurses have imagined the entire thing. Now, there had been evidence of a previous prowler. A few weeks earlier, a man with shoulder-length light hair was peering in through the windows. Now, was this the same peeping Tom? And he just found a way to magically not leave evidence. Perhaps the nurses saw something, but they were so terrified of the previous peeping Tom that this was all in their imagination. Myself, I would be willing to chalk this up to fear. I would be willing to chalk this up to maybe that light-haired man returned, and this time was wearing a motorcycle outfit. It would certainly fit. Black helmet, leather suit. But there's that pesky UFO. There was some sort of strange craft seen just 3 hours earlier. And this time, it had behaved in a way that was completely unlike the way it had behaved before. This was a repeatable occurrence. There's also, if this was a human, how did it get so quickly to the other nurses' quarters? Those nurses' quarters, they're on the other side of the orchard. They're almost half a mile away. No motorcycle was heard. Why would anybody be looking in through the window in a motorcycle outfit? And even though the dogs that the police brought heard nothing, at the time this entity was seen peering in through the window, the dogs that are kept on property went nuts. They knew something was going on. If there are entities amongst us that pop in from alternate dimensions, as I believe a lot of these alien craft do, whenever they vanish, whenever they go back to wherever they came from, they blip over to another reality. Do they take every speck of evidence with them? Now, I'm not talking about indentations in the soil, that sort of thing. But the dogs not being able to pick up a scent, I find that very fascinating. Whenever this creature went back, did everything return with them to that other dimension, right down to the microscopic level? Perhaps. Our next tale is going to take us all the way back to 1924, Dade City, Florida. Evelyn went. Now, as she got older, She was the operator of a beauty parlor. But in 1924, Evelyn was just a schoolgirl, playing in the schoolyard of Holy Name Convent School. As she's just playing around, having a good day, I imagine her chasing giant palmetto bugs, just Florida filled with them. The first thing that she remembers from that day, though, is the craft. This bright, bright craft. An egg-shaped thing on the ground. Evelyn's very curious. Perhaps a little brave. Maybe ignorant of what danger might be occurring. But Evelyn said, little people emerged. These little people, she said she thought they were robots and that she had tried to count them, but they just ran about so quickly, it was impossible. Now these robots, they're smaller than she is, but they're in the shape of flowers. They have little faces, though, where the bud would be. She goes over and she kind of introduces herself to these robotic flowers. As Evelyn gets a little bit closer, she realizes that they're carrying some sort of object, and they're having a really, really hard time with it. They're so tiny, they're so fragile looking. And Evelyn, thinking these things are just the most adorable little things, and honestly, cute little robotic flowers with faces? Yes, I would probably try to help them too if I wasn't out of my mind with fear. They're trying to carry this thing, but it's just way too heavy for them. Evelyn goes over and she kind of goes, "Hey, can I help you?" And they said, "Yes, we would love that. Thank you." But then another voice goes, "No, stop. It's too dangerous. Don't try to touch or move this device." The voice that's in her head says that the science building here on the school, there is dangerous work being done. If the work continues, they're going to destroy the building. Evelyn, though, for the life of her, she cannot remember what kind of work that is. Evelyn then tells these little creatures, No, I'm not going to destroy the science building. It's immoral to her. She knows it's illegal. And the aliens, even though some voice has told her no from the aliens that it's too dangerous to help them, the flowers are acting very, very upset. Now, some accounts that I've read of this said that she looked over and the building was in shambles. Some accounts say that the building still stood and that the upset aliens give Evelyn a message. The message was that we're going to return in 35 years. In 35 years, nothing happened. All that Evelyn can remember is that the saucer that they got into, the little egg-shaped craft, it was leaden looking. It was pockmarked. when the UFO starts up, it turns bright, bright silver. It hovers up, stays stationary in the sky for just a minute, and then disappears completely from sight. I like to think that this may be just the ramblings of a small child. Children lie. But Evelyn didn't open up about this story until 1974. Evelyn was 55 years old whenever she told this story. She said she decided to open up about it because people were much more open to the idea of extraterrestrials. Researcher Stephen Putnam even tried putting Evelyn under hypnosis, but every attempt failed. I tried doing a bit of research on this throughout the week, and really nothing could be found that's even noteworthy. All I could find was that there was a Catholic girls' one-room elementary school. A second room was added in 1924. I have found nothing about a science building or a science building exploding. Maybe this was just an old woman trying to get some attention. Maybe this is someone who is getting early onset Alzheimer's and is just imagining something. For the life of me, I'm 49 right now. For the life of me, I can remember as a kid seeing my sister and my father running through the woods with a red sky and cartoon lightning bolts hitting. Now, I know that didn't happen. I know that that's somewhere in my brain. My sister had this weird haircut where it was like a spit curl in the middle. It was like a female Clark Kent. It was just like a loop of hair down over the front. I don't know what she was trying to accomplish with that. It looked really stupid. But I can remember my sister being in a movie about Bigfoot that we watched as a kid. That didn't happen. My sister couldn't act her way out of a paper bag. There's no way anyone would put her in a movie. And knowing my sister, there's no way she would shut up about it. There are things that I believe happened as a kid, that my mind believes happened, that logically I know never happened. Perhaps the same is true of the Dade flowers. Our last tale is going to take us to time unknown. Northern Minnesota, a lake at night. I got this story from, say it with me, phantomsandmonsters.com. I absolutely love that website. Right now, I'm working on not my first book. I've written a few other things under pen names, nothing that I want to admit to. But this is the first book that I'm actually writing under my name. And in my research, I came across this. This gentleman, who is remaining anonymous, is fishing on a lake in northern Minnesota in a rowboat late one night. That's not uncommon out there. I used to live in Minnesota. Not uncommon at all. he sees something appear just above the tree line at the end of the bay. It's a cold night, as they often are in Minnesota. And this object has this weird shape to it. It drops down above the water and flies directly over his head at an amazing speed. He glances up and sees what he describes as a mass of pure evil hovering above his head. That feeling of dread, of fear, of doom sinks right down to his bones as soon as he makes eye contact with the object. He's believing his life is over. Several things are going through his mind. He thinks maybe he's going to be abducted, even though he's never heard of UFOs looking like a black cloud. And then the witness does what a lot of us would do. He begins to pray. It's the only thing that he thinks is going to save him. This dark cloud of evil hovers around about 20 seconds and then flies off exactly the same way it flew out. He's not the only one who sees it, though. He has a friend on the shore who's out smoking a cigarette on the dock, and he sees it. As soon as this cloud leaves, the witness begins frantically paddling. He's trying to get back to shore. And he keeps looking back. And please don't let it come back. Please don't let it come back. He has sensed that this thing is absolute pure evil. It bothers him to this day. Not just not knowing what it was, but knowing that it saw him. His friend and him later are sitting at the kitchen table going, "What do you think it was?" And they can't figure it out. Now, the book I'm writing, it's about how the paranormal ruins people's lives. I'm sure that's no surprise to longtime listeners of Strange Pathways. I've said it many times before. This is not anything that you want to have happen to you. And this ruins the witness's life. He was an outdoorsy man. I don't think I have to tell you that. He was outside on a boat at night, fishing. But now he's unable to go outdoors at night. He's worried that this is going to return. And after that night, the witness has gone through absolute hell. Strings of bad luck. It's like this thing noticed him and changed something about him. He ended up getting fired at work. He lost his house. He has heart issues that almost ended his life. It's like something has attached itself to him and is feeding off the negative energy in his life. So it keeps putting him in negative situations. To this day, whenever he's out at night with other people, because he's afraid to go out alone, he still looks up into the sky. He's afraid it's coming back for him. He's convinced that whatever it was, it's not of this world, not of this universe. It came from another reality, because what he saw just plain does not exist in this dimension. He laid eyes on this thing for a few seconds, and something deep down in his soul told him, this is evil. It looked like a black cloud, like it was alive. 20 feet by 15 feet wide. He had 2 dogs with him that night. They were so scared they were trying to hide under his legs. Whenever the boat got even remotely close to shore, they jumped out of the boats. So did he. In muck up to his knees. They could not get to shore fast enough. Horribly, they get up to the cabin they're staying in. The door's locked. They pound on the door until his friend opened it. Remember, his friend saw it too. His friend was so scared, he didn't even notice there was mud up to the witness's knees. Since that night, that cabin, that lake he loved so much, he can't return. No amount of money, no amount of comfort is ever going to make him return. The witness has lost something tangible. He is traumatized. And more than likely, he will never, ever find peace or closure for what happened. Thank you for joining us once again here on Strange Pathways. This is being recorded later Sunday, so we had a split up here in time. There might be some difference in audio quality, voice quality. I have really ripped my voice out doing the voice acting work that I did today. Spaceballs by Atomic Radio. Whenever that hits, I will let you know. I don't know what part I'm playing yet. I did get some part, but I will tell you this. I had an absolute blast with Atomic Radio today. This is going to happen several Sundays in a row here, but man, tons of fun. If you're from the Johnstown area, please check out the Johnstown Tribune Democrat tomorrow, April 17th. They're doing a story about Spaceballs, the radio play. I was interviewed for part of that. Absolutely a blast. Thank you for joining us this week on Strange Pathways. Our Twitter is Pathways Strange. TikTok, Strange Pathways Podcast. Instagram, Strange Pathways Podcast. Head over to our Facebook page. We are going to have images up. I am making up for not having any images last week. We're going to have images up on the Twitter, the Instagram, and the Facebook pertaining to the cases we talked about today. If you are so inclined, if you'd like to share a story, if you'd like to ask a question, or just reach out and say hi, email me at strangepathwaysmail@gmail.com. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe over on our YouTube channel. Be sure to tell a friend, tell a family member. You know you have someone that's going to just absolutely love this show. Thank you once again for joining us. Take care of yourselves and each other.